Hello there, and welcome to this presentation on the EAS 2020 and how it impacts your business. First of all, we'll look at what the EAS is, when it came into effect, and what are the key changes. The EAS is the Electrotechnical Assessment Specification, and it's the core document that bodies use when assessing electrotechnical enterprises. Essentially, it's the minimum requirement for what is needed to have an ECA membership. It's freely available from the IET website. By searching EAS IET 2020, you'll be able to get a copy. And it is worth getting a copy. There's been a lot of changes to this document over the past few years, and this is one of the biggest. We see this as a real positive because it's massively increased the requirements for new businesses coming into the industry. This new version came into effect on the 1st of September 2020, and all new enterprises should be assessed to this specification from this date on. There's a lot of new information out there, and there's some new requirements from 2021, but for ECA members, we'll be aware of them hopefully by the end of this event. All enterprises will be assessed against the same criteria, whoever they're registered with, and any non-compliances on the assessment will impact the outcome. This could reduce the intervals between your next assessment, or even result in a revisit. So it is worth bearing in mind what the criteria is. There's been many updates, some minor changes, a big change in qualification entry requirements, a lot more documentation. But as I say, ultimately it's a move in the right direction because ECA and members have complained for years about poor quality entries into the industry. Now this will stop. First element to look at is documentation. The EAS now makes it nice and clear that all documents related to technical requirements should be kept for a minimum of 6 years. You also need to have a copy of GS38. This is a free guide available from HSE, so it's worthwhile getting before you have your assessment. In terms of the technical documents, this could include things like specifications, certificates, complaints, health and safety information and calibration. Competence is now a key element in the EAS, and the enterprise, the business, is required to ensure that all employed persons, be they full or part-time or subcontractors, are suitably qualified for the roles that they undertake. This must be documented and maintained. An example matrix is available in the EAS on how to do this. Additional notes are also required to check on CPD too. Now, the example in the EAS is in the appendix, and it shows how to go through and ensure that you've got the right individual working in the right area, and it gives a stepped approach. But as ECA, we've got a solution for this. We've called it ECOMS, and this is a new member benefit that's exclusive and free to ECA members, and it allows the enterprise to record their staff and reference their competence level. But it does more than that. It also lets you store documents, which you might have for health and safety, calibration. Sound familiar? Should be. We mentioned it a few slides ago. So ECOMS will help to ensure adequate supervision is taking place. It will also help to ensure that you meet compliance with EAS requirements, and this requirement is only going to increase. So it's good to get on board with it now. eca.co.uk/ECOMS. You can use any solution you wish, a paper-based, a software-based, anything. ECOMS is there, it's a free option, and it does meet all the criteria for EAS competence. It's also free, which is always good. Plus, it keeps you updated on who can do what in those roles. If you are interested, speak to your local regional manager or look at eca.co.uk/ECOMS. Another element in the EAS is an increase in the requirements for insurance. Now, typically most contractors will have a minimum of 2 million public liability insurance. You would also, in some cases, have some employer's liability insurance. But there is now a new requirement to have professional indemnity insurance as a minimum of 250,000 where undertaking EICRs. It's worth checking your insurance policy. Some policies throw this in, some policies give you £100,000. The EAS requirement is £250,000 if you're undertaking EICRs. ECA assessments will continue along the risk-based approach. That's still allowed. ECA will maintain doing this. Currently, if you are on a risk-based assessment with ECA, you can move out to 36 months, only after you've proven that the business is suitably safe. This may change, requirements may alter this, and as mentioned earlier, any departures from the EAS could result in this time frame shrinking down. The EAS also puts requirements on firms to demonstrate safe isolation systems. ECA members are always being required to have information on safe isolation and safe energisation, but there is now more requirement within EAS for organisations to be aware of this. The Electrical Safety First have a really good Best Practice Guide 2, that is also available free from their website. Within any enterprise, there's some key personnel: a principal duty holder, or PDH, a qualified supervisor, QS. They are still vital. The enterprise shall have sufficient QSs for the work they do. It doesn't mean that a QS needs to be continually on site, but just manage the quality of work and the staff. If there's any changes to the QS, the PDH must notify the certification body within 30 days. And a replacement must be in place within 120 days. If an enterprise does change the QS, additional assessments may be incurred. Any QS must have an 18th edition qualification within 2 years of the change of regulations coming into effect. Now, as we've had the 18th edition since 2018, that's now. Previous editions of the EAS allowed for the QS to simply demonstrate a good understanding. Now, this might take some members by shock, so it's worth checking that your QS has the 18th edition. There are increased qualifications in the EAS, and some people may feel this is a barrier for new enterprises or for new QSs. However, ECA feel this is something that has been missing for many years. No more 5-day wonders applying into the industry. There is now an increased awareness on qualifications, training and competence, and things like inspection and testing. So, qualifications for new applicants. If you're looking to become a new ECA member, applicants will have to meet the requirements of Table 4B of the EAS. Table 4B sets out the qualification requirements for a qualified supervisor for all electrotechnical work, commercial and industrial. There's 5 routes. 1 is split into 3 parts, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Summarising, Route 1 is a Level 3 qualification with an AM2S, inspection and testing qualification, both initial and periodic, and an 18 plus 2 years experience of electrotechnical work. Route 2 is a qualification for domestic work plus all of the above to top it up. Route 3 is a time-served electrician with all the qualifications, pre-Level 3, plus inspection and testing, initial and periodic, plus the 18th edition and 2 years experience, as well as CPD. Route 4 is auditable evidence of qualifications that meet Route 1, plus inspection and testing, initial and periodic, 18th edition, 2 years experience, and responsibility of electrotechnical work, plus CPD. Route 5 is evidence of being a QS in the last 2 years, plus the 18th edition. Now that's evidence of being a QS in relation to the same sort of work, so that would be commercial and industrial installation work. In a nutshell, what we need are proper electricians. Now there were a lot of qualifications mentioned there. On this screen are some of the qualifications available. There are other qualifications and other awarding bodies out there. So your typical Level 3 qualifications will include the 2330, 2360, 236 Part 1 and 2, the A and the B course. Your 18th edition is often the City and Guilds 2382, but as I say, there are other ones available. And then the inspection and testing could be a combined City and Guilds 2391 or the 2394 plus the 2395. Again, others are available. If you want some more information on qualifications, the same website that has the EAS on it also has a guide to the qualification, and it's worth getting a copy just to make sure that your qualifications or any new QS's qualifications meet the requirements. So in terms of qualifications, what do you need to do? Well, firstly, you need to ensure that all existing QSs have an 18th edition qualification. You then need to make sure that any new QS meets the requirements of the EAS, including things like apprenticeship, training and CPD. If there's any changes to key personnel, the certification body must be informed ASAP. So as a business, what do you need to do? Well, be aware of all the changes in the EAS and how that could impact your business. Also be aware that any departures on an assessment could impact your risk rating or your assessment period. So it's worth being aware of any potential pitfalls before the assessor arrives. Make sure that all existing QSs have the 18th edition, and make sure that any new proposed QSs meet the qualification requirements in the EAS, checking on things like the inspection and testing qualification. But also make sure the back office paperwork is up to date. If you can get hold of a copy of the EAS 2020, it's a useful tool to have. Make sure that you've got the right insurances in place for the assessment, and check out eca.co.uk/ecoms for a significant member benefit. If you would like, speak to your local regional manager for a free demo and an overview of this. Now, this presentation is just an overview of some of the changes. Other elements may also apply, so it is worth getting a copy and having a look at the EAS to make sure that you and your business are prepared for the assessment. Thank you for the time. If you have any questions, feel free to contact technical@eca.co.uk.